In his latest threat, United States President Donald Trump has said that the denial of the Nobel Peace Prize has ended his obligation to pursue peace. Trump invoked the denial of the Nobel Peace Prize to justify his demand for the American occupation of Denmark's Greenland island. Trump made these assertions in a letter to Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre that the National Security Council also forwarded to European ambassadors posted in Washington, D.C. The letter reads, and I quote, "Dear Jonas, considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace, although it will always be predominant, but can now think about what is good and proper for the United States of America. The question that arises is this the real reason why we are witnessing global tension?" Well, let's tell you about the extent to which Donald Trump has gone to get his hands on that Nobel Peace Prize, which of course was his dream, was his goal. But now, in this fresh letter, maybe not so much. Now, of course, this is what Donald Trump has been up to, and how and why he was expecting that Nobel Peace Prize is something you can gauge for yourselves. The Venezuela invasion, it happened at the start of 2026. He ordered a military incursion into Venezuela, the capture of Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, and his wife. US also now intends to control Venezuelan oil. Also the Munir summit. He hosted a high-profile peace summit at Mar-a-Lago, his residence in America, to project himself as the world's primary mediator, but by hosting an individual who of course does perpetrate war and terror. Field Marshal Asim Munir of Pakistan and the Pakistani Prime Minister as well, who you saw earlier. Can we just slow things down so we finish before we move on to the next slide? Okay, let's go on now to the Gaza Peace Board as well. That's also something he's constituted. Now, of course, an invite has come in for India for that as well, but he had negotiated the permanent security buffer in Gaza. He'd also claimed to have ended the regional conflict there, but has it ended or not is the big question. The Greenland tariff ultimatum, 10% tariff on European allies, linking the trade war directly to his demand for US control of Greenland. The application of that tariff, that also is something that took place in 2026. Also the Machado medal swap, a ceremony orchestrated, it seems, at the White House, where Maria Machado handed her own 2025 Nobel Peace Prize to Donald Trump. It was presented to him with of course a special encryption as well by Machado. Remember, she's of course the prime opposition leader in Venezuela that he just invaded earlier this month. And of course it was handed over to Donald Trump, who felt very happy that finally he's got a Nobel Peace Prize of his own. But then a clarification came in from the Nobel board that prizes will always remain who they were awarded to, regardless of where the medal actually finds itself ending up. The 8 wars claim, again something that Donald Trump has been making for a while, including in this fresh letter that he shot off. He's asserted many times that he has personally stopped 8 global conflicts that have happened in the world since he took oath of office as the US president once again. North Korea engagement, that's something that he had of course done in his first term. He had attempted a second grand bargain with Pyongyang to finalize the denuclearization claims that of course he started earlier, wants to continue that in this term as well. So these are of course steps that Donald Trump has taken. These are all steps that of course many say have been looked at by the Nobel Peace Prize Committee as well, and possibly these steps are also influencing their decision. He now claims it's certain that he's not going to get that Peace Prize, which is why of course he's decided to, instead of the Peace Prize, take Greenland instead. Joining us is Ambassador Veena Sikri, former diplomat. Major General Shashi Asthana, defense expert, is also live with us. Adit Kothari, foreign affairs expert, joins us live. Joyita Basu, editor of the Sunday Guardian, is also joining us now live. Let me begin with you first, Joyita. It seems it's curtains now on peace for the world, the dream that the US president had stated for his goal, as the president before he assumed office. In his campaign, that was something he had taken to the people of the United States of America. But now he claims it's all over. He's just going to do what is good, beneficial for the people of the US, even if that means more wars.
Well, the thing is, you see, I mean, whatever he might be talking, it has nothing to do with the good of the world or the people of the United States. I mean, Donald Trump is a person who cannot look beyond his own nose. And the only thing he cares about is his own skin and nothing else. I mean, he's a completely self-centered, self-obsessed, at one level despotic ruler whose connection with truth is at best tenuous. Now, I don't think the world has seen anyone like him. I do not want to go into the Nazi era and all, but that's a different issue. But for the very fact that the president of the US, the most powerful person on earth, can throw a tantrum like, you have not given me the Nobel Peace Prize, that is why I want Greenland. Is that even logic? I mean, where is it? This is not adult behavior. Functioning adults do not speak like that. Now, so obviously there have to be questions in terms of his. I mean, Donald Trump was not like this in his first term. I mean, when you are looking at, so what happened in between? Now there are these wild rumors that are doing, not wild rumors. One doctor, in fact, I did a podcast with a gentleman in the US where that gentleman has said that there is a doctor who is talking about that there are problems, health problems. There's been a stroke and the reason. So has that actually impaired his ability to think logically? But the problem is, you see, until the time he is in office, everybody will have to take him seriously. But he is going to, I mean, I would say, destroy the world order the way it is. And of course, if you ask me, I mean, I know it is going to sound a little conspiratorial. I sometimes wonder what is going on over here. Because you see, if he goes and does what he wants to do with Greenland, that will be the end of NATO. Is he now playing into Putin's hand? You know, so frankly, this man, it's unbelievable. You know what is going on? No sane person can do whatever he is doing.
Yes. Okay, let me take that to you, Ambassador Veena Sikri. What do you believe has prompted this letter that has been shot off by the US President to the Norwegian Prime Minister? What was it that suddenly was the pivot for this letter being penned and sent off? And I believe it's also been sent to several European ambassadors as well, a copy of it.
Well, you know, I think it's very difficult to read President Trump's mind because it is so unpredictable, totally unpredictable. That is the only predictability you can make. And I can only say that it is clear that the non-award of the Nobel Peace Prize to him is rankling very seriously. But the Prime Minister of Norway has nothing to do with it. Actually, it's the Nobel Peace Prize Committee that gives the award. And the Prime Minister of Norway can only be embarrassed by receiving this because he really has nothing to do with it. And he cannot even, whatever their private consultations may be with the Nobel Peace Prize Committee, he cannot at all be seen in any way as associated with the award and the decision on who to award it to. But that apart, I think the Greenland issue is something that is very serious because people are trying to understand why the taking over of Greenland, receiving sovereignty over Greenland is so important for President Trump, because the Denmark government and others in the NATO alliance are saying that USA already has one military base on Greenland and they're willing to offer more military bases. So as much as he would like in terms of security, in terms of issues concerning, now the Arctic Ocean, the Arctic Sea is going to be navigable for several parts of the year because of global warming, several months in the year. So that's why the whole access to the Arctic sea lanes and whether the presence of Greenland, the monitoring of this from Greenland is important, especially to see what Russia and China are doing. All these issues are there, but none of these are those that cannot be solved in a cooperative way between members of the NATO alliance. And why the sovereignty over Greenland is being taken up even at the cost of the potential cost of the breakup of the NATO alliance is something that is very mystifying. There were reports from America over the weekend that, there is a particular businessman, Mr. Lauder, who is the owner of the great Estee Lauder cosmetic empire, but he has, in the last few months, created serious business interests in Greenland, and including buying property and so on. So maybe, there'll be some serious real estate development. There's a lot of mystifying material. It could be because of rare earths. It could be because of oil. Many, many reasons for it. But why it is being given such high prominence over everything else, and whether this is really being leading to Donald Trump becoming more popular with his MAGA base in America. This is the key question, because I think a lot of what he does is to pander to his MAGA base, and he wants them to give him greater popularity all the time. But we know that his popularity ratings have been going down, and there seems to be some kind of doubt within the MAGA base itself whether all of them accept these statements on Greenland and other issues, including the Nobel Peace Prize, as being of direct concern to the people of America. I think there's a great deal of questioning of that within the USA. I think that's the most important, because ultimately his base is within the USA, and what he does there is the only thing that matters to him. The rest of the world doesn't seem to matter to him at all. But whether this will help his MAGA base or not, this is an important question. There are a lot of questions still up in the air. The NATO members, even an 80-year-old alliance, post-Second World War alliance between USA and UK, even that has come under question, with the Prime Minister of UK, Keir Starmer, making a statement that this is completely wrong, and he was forced to do it because the people of UK are completely shocked that they have a 10% tariff, and they could have by 1st of June a further 25% tariff.
Right.
So it very big shock. But I think it's difficult to come to a direct conclusion about why he's doing it, except that it's creating global turmoil, and all of us are watching and wondering what next.
Is there one thing that we can, as of course Ambassador Sikri was just saying, what steps Donald Trump takes next is best known to Trump and is very, very difficult to predict, Major General Asthana, which I'm sure you'll agree with as well. But can one thing be predicted? That it looks unlikely that the Nobel Peace Prize will be handed over to Donald Trump? Or could that actually happen?
I don't think Nobel Prize will be given to Donald Trump by any stretch of imagination. He is posing himself like a greedy boy crying for a toy. So that's what Donald Trump is. But now, on a serious note, let me first highlight as to what he is looking at. See, he is a symbol of coercive statecraft, military interventionism, and economic weaponization. Now, these are the three things on which his Trump 2.0 is working. And what he feels is that he can get the best of the deals by putting pressures. Now, as Ambassador mentioned, let me just highlight, America already has a base, so that takes care of the security concerns. He can expand the base, he can have more bases within the articles which are existing in NATO. So he doesn't require to own Greenland for that. But the fact is that there is an element of greed involved, and he wants it for commercial reasons and commercial exploitation. Now, this exploitation, so far, the European Union has prevented it because of climatic reasons. Everybody knew what kind of resources are there, whether it is rare earth or it is oil or energy or whatever. But then the fact is that they decided, because in the overall good of the world as well as of Europe itself, I think that they were not exploited. He feels that if he owns, he can exploit more. If he doesn't own it, he may not be able to exploit that much. So I think that is his greed and his personal, as was mentioned by Joyita. See, he is looking at his own empire. I don't think he looks beyond that. I don't think he looks for the people of America, because he is basically looking at his voter base, his own empire growing. So whether America grew economically or not is the statistics says that it didn't. But in his case, I think his empire has grown almost about 3 times in 1 year. Now that is the kind of the speed with which his economic wealth is growing. So this is what he is trying to do. Now, as far as the other countries are concerned, now most important thing is as to what is it what Europe can do. Now the problem is Europe has already given him some kind of, shall I say, they surrendered to him when it came to trade deal. They gave him 0% tariff and accepted 15% tariff on them. So he got emboldened. So he has been emboldened by so many people surrendering to him. Japan surrendered to him in that manner. And with the result, he feels that he can dictate terms. The second problem with him is that he feels that Europe is defenseless. They have not built up their defenses and therefore they are scared of Russia. And whatever I say, this is a golden opportunity for me to grab whatever I can from Europe. Now, this is where perhaps now it's up to Europe now to get together because it will not end at Greenland. If they succumb to his pressure now, he is going to look for some more concessions. Because again, as a greedy businessman, there is no limit to gain more. So that is how I think the situation is.
How is it
I'm
that...
sure
Yes.
So I'm
Yes.
sure that some sense will prevail and people will stand up to it.
How is it then going to now change his approach to foreign policy then and the steps he takes, Adit Kothari, moving forward? He claims it's going to change his outlook now, going to move beyond just peace. Well, one wonders if that was the first intention or whether it was just, of course, a prize rather than just long-lasting peace. But is this letter and the stand that Trump now is taking going to change the moves you see him making going forward? And how then?
So I think, blaming Norway highlights his perceived sort of biases with regards to Scandinavian, authorities and their institutions. And without sort of delving into Trump's own sort of, the way he boasts about ending 8 wars, the exaggerated claims that he makes, trying to, claim personal disappointment over an award which is not being given to him and tying that to foreign policy. It's a clear sign of a megalomaniac individual who is an incredibly immature man and which is now risked world order, as many of the other panelists have sort of outlined. But more or less, it undermines US credibility even within the allies, even within NATO itself. There are so many questions coming forward that now people are actually thinking, will Russians actually come to the security and preventive mechanisms for the NATO countries? Those are the questions which are doing the round. But going into the history of Greenland itself, we have to remember that Greenland was in some sort of control of the United States post World War II. It was only in 1951 where there were formal treaties which were carved out. As a consequence, Greenland was given further sort of autonomy. And with the thinning of Arctic ice, that security risk is looming over United States. In 2018, the Chinese went ahead and claimed about the Polar Silk Road, and they claimed about being a so-called sort of a polar country. Now Russia and China, both in the sort of envision of the Arctic Circle, opens up another security risk. The security risk is there. But as Major General Asthana also pointed out clearly that, he is also driven by his own mercantile interests, his own business interests, which I think is with to do with the rare earth minerals, the control over the rare earth minerals, which he cannot ascertain if by only putting in military bases. So, Trump's diplomacy, his foreign policy is not rooted in sort of any sort of principle, but it is purely transactional, and that is what we are getting to see. And it's going to be extremely dangerous for the world going forward if he's allowed to continue in this fashion without anybody from within the United States questioning his own authority. I mean, at this point, forget people from within the Republican Party itself, but even Democrats are not raising compelling questions of Trump's conduct and his mental attitude.
Okay. Let me quickly take that back across to you then, Joyita. Do you believe, this has also then prompted the 10% tariff? Has it happened because Trump is still sulking after this Nobel Peace Prize sulk? Does this explain then this, continuous push for Greenland suddenly in the first month of 2026? Or is there more to it?
Well, actually, he obviously is thinking in terms of, because you see, he has been talking about Greenland almost for a year now. He was, in fact, tomorrow, 28th of January, is when he is completing 1 year in office. So soon after coming to office, he started talking about Greenland, and of course, Nobel Peace Prize along with that. I mean, a little later perhaps. So this Greenland, this whole thing about mineral deposits and all, that obviously would have attracted him a lot. And I guess he's all out to try and prove some kind of a legacy. I mean, have a legacy and how people will remember him. He destroyed NATO. He got Greenland into the US fold. All these things, and I would not be surprised that if he starts claiming Canada now, because there's already some talk that is happening that he wants Canada as well. And so, frankly, it is all mayhem and utter, disorder. Now, you see, what is interesting here is the trade deal part. Now, when you are coming to the trade deal, Europe thought they already had a deal. All right. But now he is saying that the latest statement that is coming from him is that the EU deal is not finalized. Okay, so if the deal is not finalized, what were all those people running and coming to you? We were told that the deal has been finalized with the UK, if I remember correctly. So now think of it from the point of view of India. I mean, we keep saying that we are going to have a trade deal with the US. Are we certain that we are going to have a trade deal with the US? Given these circumstances, given the fact that this man keeps changing his mind, as Ambassador Veena Sikri said, unpredictability, that unpredictability factor. Can you formulate policy when the other side is so unpredictable? Now he is talking about a board of peace where to become a member you have to give $1 billion. What if India decides not to become a member of that board of peace, given the fact that there is a lot of involvement of Pakistan in this particular board of peace? Now, if that is the case, then what happens? So even if may have, just thinking in terms of hypothetically speaking, we have already signed a trade deal and then India refuses to be part of the board of peace. Then what happens? Does that trade deal fall apart? No signature is worth the paper it is written on, it is signed on.
Yes.
So
Okay.
how can you possibly work with a man like that?
Okay, Ambassador
So I
Sikri.
think we Indians should be very wary.
Ambassador Sikri, coming back to you, of course, on this push for Greenland, do you see it continuing? Do you see it just as the kind of the seasons flair for Trump, the seasons push? He keeps on changing with each season what he's pushing for. So, do you believe this is a temporary sort of push for Greenland, or do you see this becoming more sustained as the year goes by?
I think that President Trump seems to be a bit surprised by the way the NATO members have come together on this issue. In the beginning, it seemed as though, maybe his demands were not being taken seriously enough, and there was quite a fairly relaxed response, and oh yeah, we'll deal with it. But now that this symbolic sending of a few troops, very symbolic, of course, but the very fact of sending those troops to Greenland is an indication of the NATO members coming together. And I already spoke about Prime Minister Keir Starmer's statement on this subject, which is very unusual for the UK to make such a statement, against the USA, which is completely unusual for the special relationship they have. So I think it has come into a direct clash. Now, if it might be very difficult for the NATO members to step down or to step away from it, what kind of a deal will be worked out between the NATO members and between the European members of NATO and the USA? I think it could be virtually giving sovereignty to USA, but not calling it such, because from President Trump's statement, it seems he will not back off. He's now made these statements very sharply, and putting the tariffs also is a kind of a very significant indicator in President Trump's playbook that he is going to go ahead with this. So I do think they will come to some kind of a deal. I don't see all of them allowing the NATO alliance to fall apart. So let us see what is going to happen. It's still very much in the making.
All right. Major General Asthana, I'll quickly leave the last word to you, 30 seconds.
In my opinion, what is going to happen is that they are going to give him some more security bases and also some more contracts to exploit some kind of minerals and not call it a total possession, and also work it out with him that he also doesn't call it as, and NATO remains intact. I
Okay.
think something like that will get worked out
Okay.
because he is putting pressure as a tactics to get a best bargain for whatever he wants to do.
My thanks to all of our
Back to you.
guests for joining us. We've run out of time. Let's slip into a very short break on that note.